between Israel and Iran and the president's actions. Let's welcome the Vice President of National Security at the Heritage Foundation, Victoria Coates, and former advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu, Ruthie Blum. Welcome to both of you. Victoria, President Trump says that he will decide, as you heard, within 2 weeks if the U.S. will get involved in the war between Iran and Israel. Is this our war to fight?
Well, I think the president chose his words very carefully, Rick, not surprisingly, within the next 2 weeks. So we don't know if that means tonight, if that means in 10 days. It's very possible next week this will be the #1 story. But the president's point has been that the possession of a nuclear weapon by this regime in Iran is a direct threat to the United States, and he is not going to permit that to happen. So that doesn't make this our war to fight, but what it does make it is our business to prevent them from getting that nuclear weapon. So to date, Israel has been doing an extraordinary job degrading both the personnel and the material that Iran needs to get a nuclear weapon. The question is if there's an additional step that only the United States can take, and I think that's what he's going to have to make the decision on.
Well, the assets are on their way. If he wants to do it, he'll be able to. Ruthie, advisor to President Trump, Jason Miller, was on Newsmax this week, and he was praising Trump's leadership during these times. Listen.
This is the reason why President Trump received 77.3 million votes and 312 electoral votes and won such an overwhelming show of support in the election this last fall. We have to trust in our commander-in-chief. And we saw in his first 4 years in office, President Trump kept us out of all new wars. There's an important point here that sometimes with the peace through strength, sometimes you have to show a little strength to avoid having to get into a war, because in a certain case, if we don't take care of it now, it could be something later. But if there's one person who can stop us from being embroiled in a war, it's President Trump.
Sometimes you have to show a little strength. Your thoughts on Miller's words, Ruthie?
I totally agree. And in fact, we see that with Israel. Now, Israel has never been given any choice in the matter, being attacked on all sides since its establishment. Whether President Trump will enter the war or not is a question on everyone's mind. I think there are indications that he's about to do so, and I don't mean U.S. troops on the ground. But we see that B-2 bombers are being moved to Guam from the United States. And why to Guam and not specifically the Middle East? As I read, it's because the bombs in those bombers are too heavy to enable a full tank of gas in the airplanes. So it's possible that Guam is a first stop on the way to heading towards Iran. In any case, Israel will go it alone without President Trump if need be, because this is an existential issue for Israel. But still, still President Trump is the best friend in the White House that Israel ever had.
Yeah, that seems clear. Those bunker busters, I believe, are 30,000 pounds each. Right. Victoria, Israeli UN Ambassador Danny Danon spoke at the UN Security Council saying they will not stop attacks against Iran until Iran's nuclear threat is dismantled. Negotiations are being attempted, but very few trust Iran's leadership. So it does seem likely that this will continue until Israel is satisfied that Iran can't build nukes anymore. Your thoughts?
No, I think that's spot on, Rick. And I think that Israel, as Ruthie said, has been facing threats from all sides since the founding of modern Israel in 1948. But what makes this threat different is it becomes an apocalyptic threat by the Islamic Republic of Iran that could actually destroy Israel. So Israel is doing what Israel has to do. And one thing that's been very striking to me is the extremely muted response from the rest of the Middle East that isn't Iran. And there have even been indications that a number of countries in the area have actually been assisting Israel either with airspace or by shooting down Iranian projectiles as they go through their airspace. So this notion that there's going to be some regional war, that the Arab nations would take advantage of this as an excuse, not that they support Iran, but it would be an excuse to attack Israel. They're not doing that. So rather than Israel being isolated, which is always the great fear, in a way, Israel is uniting the Middle East against the threat of a nuclear Iran.
Very interesting. Ruthie, of course, Israel has every right to defend themselves, and a nuclear-armed Iran could spell the end of the Holy Land. So how do you see this playing out?
I see it playing out. First of all, we're seeing incredible victories in Iran so far. It's only been a week and a day, and Israel has taken out all kinds of missile launchers, nuclear scientists, and has damaged nuclear facilities. Obviously, the intelligence isn't, I'm not privy to that kind of direct intelligence, but we're really cleaning it out. And I think that possibly what we're doing is enabling President Trump to enter sort of once the coast is clear, so to speak. And by the way, Victoria is absolutely right. The Abraham Accords that President Trump brokered during his first term were a direct result of the Gulf countries seeing Prime Minister Netanyahu give a tough speech against the nuclear deal that Obama eventually signed and that Trump ripped up in 2018. So, I absolutely agree that these countries, we have a better chance for peace when Israel is strong, and especially when the United States is strong.
Ruthie Blum and Victoria Coast, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, President